honey is probably one of the easiest things. People like to hear your story. That's how we started out with going to events. They talk to the beekeeper, they get comfortable with him, his management style, and they know where their food's coming from.
I'm Sean Hessinger, and this is Small Biz in 15, the show where we bring you small business news and tips to make your small business better. On today's episode, Charlie Vorisek, owner of Vorisek's Backyard Bee Farm, talks about how to start a beekeeping business. Tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, how you got into it, that kind of thing.
Well, the business actually started as my daughter's ag project in 1992. So my daughter, she was in 8th or 9th grade, and she wanted to be an FFA, and her brother was in FFA, and I'm looking around saying, well, like everybody does hogs and Holsteins, there's got to be something else, like can you do something different? I guess that's me. But we kind of teased the idea of beekeeping. I'd been to a school event at the University of Maryland, and they have an apiary on the campus, and I happened to wander into it and was just kind of blown away by not getting stung. And anyway, we started as a high school ag project in 92. I had 2 daughters back to back that did it as an ag project for over 9 years, I think, somewhere. So 2004, I took it I bought it from my last daughter. I traded her a car, and I got whatever equipment she had. So now I thought I'd do it when I retired someday. And then I got laid off in 2009, and I'd been running 100 colonies as well as working 10-hour days. And it was like, there's summers that I don't even remember because I was just like from 5 till 10 and then do it again every day. But so in 2009, I got laid off from my tool and die job. I'd been in tool and die for 30 years. And I just thought, the kids are out of school. I don't have these commitments. I can try and make this go.
Charlie, I think you covered my first question in your intro, which is, what is a beekeeper called? There's a word for it besides beekeeper.
Yeah, the technical name would be apiarist. It's a Latin term. Apiary is a yard where you keep bees. An apiarist is a person that tends to the bees. Most people just call themselves a beekeeper. And sometimes we say they're a bee haver.
I know that this next question is relative, but I mean, is beekeeping hard? And I don't mean the business part of it. I mean the beekeeping, the raising bees.
Well, for the most part, bees will take care of themselves. I mean, they do out in nature. So you give them a home, give them a nesting site. And they're pretty content with that, and they can just carry on pretty much on their own. So from that respect, they can be hands-off, but hands-off, it's like other agriculture. I mean, if you actually want to produce something out of it, you need to manage it. And that's what, that's what you need to do. And not only just for if you want to produce something out of it, but just so that you don't become a nuisance in the neighborhood, having extra bees going here and there or when they shouldn't be.
I know you shared with us your personal story, but in general, how do you start a beekeeping business? I mean, if somebody wanted to get started doing this, what are some first steps? What would you suggest? Because I know, in addition to your own story, because of all the, the involvement you've had with other beekeepers, I'm sure you've acquired a lot of general knowledge about it. If somebody's they think this would be an interesting thing to start, How do you do that?
I'm going to be straight up honest. It's not something that you want to just jump into without the same as any other enterprise. You need to really understand what you're working with. If you're going to sell eggs, you would need to know, you get to have the chickens to start with and a place to keep them. And there's also laws that we have to follow, be compliant with, to keep bees. In Pennsylvania, in most states, there's an inspection program for honeybees, and you need to be registered with the state because they have a disease that can go through them, and it can go through your neighbors. It can be an issue. So we register with the state to sell honey. You also, if you're going to sell it beyond your back door, you need to have being compliant with food safety regulations as well. So generally, you can sell out your back door or give it away or whatever, but you don't always make honey either. There you have some good seasons, bad seasons. You have losses with your bees. So I don't know. I started to feel comfortable about 5 years into it. Well, and I'm 30 years along, and I still have. It seems to change every year. You're always juking and jiving to whatever the circumstances are. But it's agriculture. Agriculture is not 100%. It's not like going to the box store and buying something. You're really dependent on weather and just on all nature around you.
Well, I guess a supplemental question I would ask is what kind of, just like on a nuts and bolts level, if you weren't even thinking about the business, but just starting beekeeping, because it sounds like you should start beekeeping first, get experience with it, and then grow it into a business. So what do you need just to start beekeeping? What sorts of things do you need?
Yeah, so that's exactly the correct, response is to start, get comfortable with it, understand it, but to get started. So I was pulling a few catalog prices, and it looks like just to get your boxes, the boxes are probably enough boxes to hold your bees, plus make some surplus. You probably have, just 150 to 250 just in that. That's before you get the bees and before you get your suit. And add a smoker to that. But you can throw $500 at it pretty quick.
How much do beekeepers make, or how much can beekeepers make? And I know that's a loaded question, but is there a way to gauge that out to give people a realistic yardstick?
I keep all my bookkeeping. I keep on QuickBooks, and I can do spreadsheets, and I can do a lot of things. But it's still hard to, you amortize something that you're using over a long period of time, and it gets difficult. But at the end of the day, I would say I'm probably retaining 25 to 30% of my gross. I try to sell mostly retail. Retail is where you're going to get 100% of your return. As soon as you can't sell enough retail without a lot of time on the ground, which takes you away from the management. So we do some wholesales. Stores, local stores want to sell it, but you have to give them a margin. You have to give them a margin to sell. So you drop it, 30, maybe 40% off your retail price, and that's what you're wholesaling at. But I think statistically, the way it's working, because we have a roadside stand and some pretty good events, about, I would say 60 to 70% of our sales are retail, and the rest is wholesale. So we do the majority at retail, and that's, and everybody will tell you, that just retail is where you stay closest to your dollar.
How do you get started selling honey? I mean, you mentioned everything from selling out your back door to when you have to worry about food regulation and selling it at stands and wholesale. I mean, how do you break into that? Is there a best way to ease into that?
Once you have bees and you're talking to your coworkers and people you're around you, your neighborhoods, and they're the first ones that say, "Oh, can I buy some honey from you?" So it almost regulates itself as you expand. So your close friends and relatives and people you work with, they're going to be your first customers. And then, maybe there will be a flea market. You can go to a flea market, go to an event. I found when I went from it being a high school project to I actually put it on QuickBooks and I started running a quote business, it increased at 30% a year without even trying. It's just like boom, boom, boom. It was like, whoa, I'm going to throw the brakes on here pretty soon because I can't, you only have a finite amount of stock. So you have to come to a point where it's like, okay, this is where I have to stop. I can't take on any more vendors. And, I only sell this size. I don't sell bulk. And so honey is probably one of the easiest things. People like to hear your story. That's how we started out with going to events. People they talk to the beekeeper, they get comfortable with him, his management style, and they know where their food's coming from.
Here's a question that I found a lot online, so I felt I had to ask it, even though it probably should be obvious, especially for those of us back in my day in the newspaper business. I actually went to see a couple of beekeepers. Here's the question. How do beekeepers not get stung?
Well, we do get stung, but we don't, not intentionally. So there's a couple of things. I mean, initially, as you start as a beekeeper, you're going to buy the veil, you're going to buy a full suit. We did all that. I remember we used to count how many times we got stung, and to me, it's, I don't know. Over time, I've become more tolerant of bee stings. It's actually to the point where I don't swell up, or it still hurts every time it happens, but it's physically it's been positive. Some people will go the other way and they'll have more and more reaction each time they get stung, and I've gotten less and less. But I still suit up. I still wear a veil. I wear nitrile gloves instead of leather. Actually found it, it's easier to feel things and do things with nitrile. But you can even go as far as selecting the genetic lines of honeybees. Some are more aggressive, some are less aggressive. Time of day that you're working on them, or in the weather, overcast and rainy. Well, some bees are pretty tolerant that way, but yeah. And if they're getting bothered at night, if they got a skunk digging at the front door at night, they're a little cranky in the day. And, but there's some genetic lines that we can watch. But I also related to, so if you're a dairy farmer and you're milking cows, you're going to get swatted with the tail, it's going to happen. And it's not fun. It's not comfortable, but it's going to happen. And that's the same with beekeeping. You're going to get stung now and then, and just know that that's part of the business.
Well, that's it for another episode of Small Biz in 15. Thanks again to Charlie Vorisek of Vorisek's Backyard Bee Farm for making this program possible. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and please leave a comment and let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future programs. For more small business news and tips, join us at smallbiztrends.com.